Vladimir Putin's staunchest critic, Alexei Navalny, has been sent to prison for 3.5 years. A Moscow court found Navalny guilty of violating the terms of his probation while he was in Germany recovering from a poisoning attack. The money laundering case dates back to 2014 that Navalny calls politically motivated. He insists that due process was crudely violated during his arrest, and he described the decision as a travesty of justice. The hearing was attended by Navalny's wife Yulia as well and several supporters. Navalny made a heart gesture as he stood in the defendant's cage. In a fiery speech to his country, Navalny said that he was jailed because of Putin and because Putin is concerned about him as a political rival. Kremlin refers to Navalny as a troublemaker without popular support. Reports say that Navalny could be heard mocking Putin during this hearing. Navalny's lawyers have said that they would appeal against the ruling. One of the lawyers said that he would spend only 2 years and 8 months in jail because of the time he has already spent under house arrest.
Мы подаем апелляционную жалобу и сообщаем Комитету министров Совета Европы, который занимается как раз исполнениями решений Европейского суда, который отслеживает исполнение решений Европейского суда, о том, что данное решение, вынесенное Европейским судом, не исполнено Российской Федерацией. Как я понимаю, и я видела объяснения в интернете, да, которые давали дипломаты, они хотели посмотреть, прямо вот в самом судебном заседании, как все проходит, нарушаются ли права и что происходит на самом деле, да, убедиться в этом воочию.
Navalny's allies called for his supporters and protesters to stage demonstrations against this ruling. Protesters took to the streets soon after the verdict was announced. They gathered on St. Petersburg's main avenue in central Moscow. Helmeted riot police could be seen grabbing demonstrators and putting them in police vehicles. Russian police detained more than 1,400 protesters as they tried to gather outside the court before the ruling. Authorities had arrested Navalny as he arrived from Germany after recovering from a poisoning attack. His supporters have been staging mass protests ever since then. On Monday, a Moscow court ordered Yulia Navalny to pay a fine of 20,000 rubles, that is $265. She was accused of violating protest regulations after she attended a demonstration in Moscow. Navalny joined the protest despite unprecedented security measures in place. She was quickly detained. The U.S. State Department says that they are reviewing what actions can be taken in response to the sentencing of Alexei Navalny.
We are going to look very carefully at the deteriorating human rights situation in Russia, what has happened with Mr. Navalny specifically, what has happened with the mass detentions of those who have bravely taken to the streets in the aftermath of Mr. Navalny's arrest. And of course, all of that we will account for in determining an appropriate policy course.
For more on this, we are being joined by WION correspondent Stuart Smith, who's joining us from Moscow. Stuart, tell us more about what happened in the courtroom.
In the courtroom itself, Alexei Navalny was there in person, first of all, which was interesting because there were discussions about whether he would have to appear by video link as he had in previous trials. But indeed, he was there in person, and the prosecution put it to him that he had not only broken these bail conditions from this fraud case in 2014, but also that he had been part of an attempt to organise mass rallies. 2 charges put to him, which he didn't even address directly, certainly not the protest charges directly. He admitted that he had been calling for action on the streets, but he dealt with this particular charge from 2014 about fraud, a suspended sentence he received at the time, now being converted into a full-time prison sentence. And he said that even the European Court of Human Rights has looked at this case, has declared it politically motivated, and he says he abided by all the regulations even after the European Court of Human Rights ruled this case politically motivated and unjustified. And the prosecution said that even when he was in a coma in Germany, he did tell the prison service that he was unavailable to appear at the police station twice a month, but the prosecution says he failed to uphold his bail conditions multiple times before and after that as well. So in the end, the judge did sentence him to 3.5 years total. He's already served some of that time under house arrest for the same case a few years ago, which means in total he'll spend 2 years and 8 months in a penal colony somewhere in Russia. And this could possibly not be the end of proceedings. He may be able to appeal. Well, he can appeal within the next 10 days. And there is a slight precedent that's happened before. Last time he was sentenced to prison, Alexei Navalny was later released and the prison sentence was overturned. So possibly not the end of this case.
Right, Stuart, the Moscow court found Navalny guilty of violating the terms of his probation while he was undergoing treatment and surviving a poisoning attack in Germany. So how is a person supposed to fulfill his terms of probation when they are in a hospital or, in fact, even in a coma? Did the court not consider this?
The court considered it, but said that he had an obligation to let them know of the reason he was not there, and they said that he did that too late. And they also cited other times when they believed he had violated this, not just when he was in a coma in Germany. But Alexei Navalny in court pointed out that the whole preface, the whole pretense of this trial is about much more than a supposed violation of a suspended jail sentence from 2014, that behind the scenes what's going on here is an attempt to intimidate both him and also any other potential opposition activists in Russia, and also the protesters who come out every weekend and have come out every weekend since his arrest. And he made the point that this court is, in his opinion, not a good example of Russian justice. It's a political decision to have him arrested, and he called on people not to be intimidated. He said himself that he wasn't scared, but that he doesn't want anyone else to be afraid of coming out and expressing their support. That's the only way, he says, that people will be able to achieve his release.
Stuart, one final question to you. How will this impact Russia's ties with the West? We've seen United States come out and openly support Navalny. They have also condemned Russia's crackdown on the protesters.
Yes, indeed. The US, the UK, Germany, the UK calling this decision perverse, the US calling it, saying it's deeply concerned about what's going on. Many Western nations expressing their concern. The Swedish foreign minister was in Russia yesterday and expressed her concerns to the foreign minister of Russia. So many Western nations calling this a human rights violation, especially the way Russia has been treating the protesters who are coming out to support Navalny. And we saw it again last night on the streets, not just protesters, but journalists hit with batons, tasered, and also rounded up without any sort of warning, without any sort of, with a very violent approach.
Stuart Smith, thank you so much for joining us from Moscow and getting us all these details.